So good morning, Emily. It's lovely to meet you this morning. And I should say, for the benefit of those listening to us, that you've got quite a critical role at the moment. I think you're saving the planet, aren't you?
Well, I think it's quite an exciting role, actually. It's critical as well. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to bring all the resources of Cambridge University together under the singular purpose of helping to support the transition to a zero carbon world.
Fantastic. And of course, you're actually a fellow of Darwin College. Mm-hmm. You are actually director of Cambridge Zero. Mm-hmm. Is it like herding cats? Because Cambridge University famously, there's lots of academic individualism, isn't there, and scientific individual, or am I just being unfair?
No, well, but you know what? This is part of the reason why what we're trying to do is so exciting, because what we're doing is we're bringing academics from across all different subjects, from not just climate science, but from engineering, lawyers, people who understand behavioural psychology, people who understand the historical context of all of this, all together to help try to find solutions.
And it's obviously there's been a big launch around this, because I think it's fair to say that certainly as somebody who lives in Cambridge, I find it very exciting to think it's happening in our city. You've got a clear goal, but how do you bring together all of these people from different disciplines with different approaches to learning and science, etc.? How do you bring that together to create the solutions that we're going to require? Because they're going to have to be pretty radical, aren't they?
So we're doing a whole set of things. So on one level, we're looking at how we can bring together the research that's undertaken in the university, develop new ideas, new innovations. So there's 1,000,001 different projects I could tell you about, but since we're sitting here looking across at the Whittle Laboratory, which is where there's a large amount of work looking at how we can decarbonise aviation. So much of aviation is such a significant contribution, not as a whole, but as a single flight, there's a significant contribution to any individual's carbon footprint. So we really need to find ways of decarbonising that. And so one of the projects that's being looked at is how to develop electric planes, and another is how to develop synthetic or sustainable fuels that can be used in aviation. So that's one area where we're really trying to accelerate the innovation, because we simply don't have the time for that to be developed over decades. It needs to be developed over years.
Which is quite a challenge. And you talk about electric planes. Of course, we're looking at the moment at electric cars and the issues around them, and them being sufficient to be able to complete journeys from city to city, which is a challenge in itself. So I can imagine trying to get a plane.
But that's another example. So if you think about the electric cars example, that's another example where it really is a multidisciplinary approach that's required. So it's not just the technology of the electric cars itself. It's also all the infrastructure, all the policy, all the regulation. So that's where you need to bring in not just the engineers, but also the lawyers or the people who understand behavioural change, etc. And not just one of the other key things that we're trying to do is not just do the research and develop the ideas and innovations within the university, but really critically engage externally with people in industry, in business, people in the policy world, both at a local level and at a national and international level, and with the public more generally. So that we can ensure that any innovations really get rolled out rapidly in terms of real world deployment, because that's the only way we're going to be able to tackle the scale of the challenge, or as rapidly as the science tells us is necessary.
And that's the crucial point, isn't it? Because I think it's fair to say that I think we all now know that we're facing potentially a kind of an apocalypse if we don't get a wiggle on here. We've got to start doing something, haven't we? And I don't think I'm over-exaggerating that. Well, I doubt it's by 2030, but we're on a sort of a trajectory of travel that if we don't do something now, things could end badly. So I mention that because I think our young people, I've noticed this as a principal of a school, I've noticed over the last year the levels of understanding of young people, which perhaps they didn't have before, 2, interest of people, but 3, anxiety of young people, is very much something that as educators we're very aware of. And of course, we're at a high level of the work you're doing, Emily. But what could we be doing to empower them, to make them believe that change can happen and that they can be part of that change and they can make that future a bright future for themselves?
So, I mean, first of all, you're absolutely right. This decade, we're in the 2020s now. This decade is the decade in which we really need to make significant global action if we are to address the climate challenge. There's no question about that. One of the things that I think has become, I'm a climate scientist by background, so I understand the scale of the challenge from the climate science perspective very, very well. I've seen the scale of the changes in the polar regions in Antarctica and in the Arctic. But I have been really inspired and excited since I've moved back to Cambridge University and started to get involved in the solution side of things. That in itself feels quite empowering. It can become quite, as you say, eco-anxiety is a very real response to the scale of the crisis that which the climate and the world finds itself in. And in a way, the best response to that is to say, right, let's get involved in trying to solve this. And then that actually becomes quite exciting as well. And there are many different things that people can do. I think for many of the people who are coming through school now, actually, this is potentially a very exciting opportunity. Their future careers could be entirely around creating a more resilient, healthier, cleaner, more exciting future for the world as a whole. And so I think there are huge opportunities there, and it can be really exciting and inspiring. And different people will have different ways in which they want to progress that. So some of that will be about, the sorts of things that I've just been talking about. Some of the people who are in your school today will become the engineers of the future, who are developing the new clean modes of transport of the future, for example. But others might be the lawyers of the future that are helping to support the policy and regulation frameworks that are required for this. And some of them will be working at a community level, helping to put in place more sustainable actions at a community level. There are many different ways in which people can get involved in helping to shape a better world. And I think one of the things that I've said a number of times of what we're trying to do with Cambridge Zero is that we are trying to turn what is, frankly, a bit of a nightmare vision of a future into a mission to shape a world that we can be proud of leaving to future generations as our legacy.
Because I couldn't agree more with you, actually, that I do believe these young people can do this, not least because I was a student of history. And when you look back at history, when you see what mankind, womankind, what they have achieved over the centuries, it's quite extraordinary. Quite extraordinary. The creativity,
exactly,
the
drive,
ingenuity, it's all there. And that was behind, dare I say, the Industrial Revolution,
Absolutely.
which it brought lots of positive things, but subsequently obviously has proved too much for the planet. So now we've got to stop, we've got to regroup, and we've got to look again. But it's getting that message out there because politics is complicated, as we know, and global politics is very complicated. I suppose we're looking to people like you, Emily, at Cambridge Zero to help provide a lead. But from what you're saying, you're one of many potential leaders in this to help other people understand what needs to be done, because it's knowing what to do.
It is knowing what to do, but in a way, I think having the right answer can, striving to do the right answer can also sometimes be quite stalling. Doing something.
Yeah. Any
little thing, I think, helps make, so for your students and young people, they're not in a position to be able to, make global change immediately, although actually Greta Thunberg in a way has been the example where the single person has been able to make global change. But for many, but actually there are so many things that people can do at a local level. within their own school or within their own street or within their own community, just small things that they can start to make happen. And lots of small things can add up to being a movement, as we've seen with the school strikes.
Absolutely. Although obviously as a principal of a school, I cannot authorise absences for school strikes. But we're listening. We're listening.
But what's been very clear over the last 18 months is that young people's voices have been heard on this subject.
Absolutely.
And that, I think, we've seen how powerful that has been.
I couldn't agree more. And I think now the onus is on the grown-ups to actually begin to respond to that. What's the so what? Who is listening? Somebody has got to listen. Yeah,
but I think it's not. But I guess my key point is it's not just the grown-ups. I think it's everyone responding to that. So that is the children as well.
Okay.
No, I'm not. Not to say that to put any onus on them, but I think the key thing is that we're all part of this. We're all part of shaping this, and young people need to be absolutely as much part of shaping this as quote grown-ups.
Yeah, that's a very fair point actually, and I suspect that they'll be far more willing and able to adapt because they're young.
Well, but also they're going to have a sense of the solutions that will be appropriate to their future lives. Yeah. That's why it's so critical that they're involved in the solutions as well.
And I have to say, I attended an assembly at Rosedale House recently where somebody, Julia Gross actually, was talking about all the good things that are happening. And what I was really impressed with was the level of understanding of, little 7-year-olds, 8-year-olds about the importance of biodiversity and habitat. And the sort of things that a few years ago, I don't think they would have had quite such a stark understanding of.
Oh, so
7-year-olds.
No, even younger. I've got a 4 and a 6-year-old, and they completely
They're all over it, are they?
So do all their friends. And I was in, I do quite a lot of activities at some of the local primary schools. And absolutely, even the youngest children. And there's something, I think, about, it must be a very innately human thing that from very early age, everyone understands the importance of the natural world.
Yeah.
And everyone can understand the importance of treating the world around us in a way that is going to help support all life on Earth. And that seems to, as I say, my experience is even the youngest of children can understand that.
You're right. And I think that educators need to reflect on how education works for that as a sort of as a process in itself, because frankly, the way in which education is set up at the moment is it is about passing examinations.
Well, and so critically on that, if we just reflect on some of the things that I've been saying about what are key to help navigate through the coming decades, what do we just say? Creativity, ingenuity. That's inspiring people to think about the world in a different way, and to help shape those solutions in new and different ways. That's the critical skills, and that's what we need to be helping our young people develop and giving them the sense of being able to take leadership. The world is in a somewhat of a crisis situation here. Time is running out. We need everyone to respond to that, and we absolutely need to train up the next generation of leaders in order to take this challenge forward and to create that better world.
And I'm delighted you're saying that, because at our school, that is what we endeavour to do. We try really hard to ensure that education is an experience beyond just what you have to learn for the test. Education is what you need for life, and for this life, that it's still extraordinary for them. It's just got different challenges from the life, I had when I was younger. But it's been, it's really wonderful listening to you, Emily, because you're inspiring me to hope that it's about everybody believing they can be part of the solution. That's the message I'm taking away from this. We're all part of the solution. It's a mindset, isn't it?
And that it's exciting to do so.
Yeah. It's not a burden. It's an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. It's an exciting opportunity. And I think that now is really the time to do it.
Yeah.
Because I feel, partly because of young people making their voices heard, that there really is a sense that we do need to do something about this.
Yep.
So that stage of the challenge, at least in this country, and I think starting to be around the world as well, people are really feeling that we do need to do something. We do need to step up, and then there is so much opportunity for creating exciting solutions, for looking. I mean, I mentioned the electric aircraft earlier, but another really exciting aspect is looking to see how we can use nature itself to help create some of these solutions. So how can we local to here, how can we look at different farming methods to help increase the amount of carbon in the soils, return the soils to the amount of carbon that they used to store in them? How can we not just plant trees wherever, but look to restoring habitats around the world in a way that helps both support biodiversity, support the natural world, but also helps to take carbon dioxide out of the atmosphere and return the atmosphere to a more an earlier state with less of a climate impact. So there's another angle that is incredibly exciting to think through, how we can really be repairing our world, but in a way that both is creates a healthier nature and healthier humans.
And I think on that note, actually, that's like a manifesto, isn't it, really? Vote Emily is what I say. But Emily Shuckburgh, thank you so much. You are an inspiration, you really are. And I thank you so much for giving up valuable time when you're out there trying to save the world. So thank you very much.
Oh, thank you very much. But I think even more is the young people that need to be out there saving the world.
And having seen the Greta Thunberg event at Bristol on Friday, I think we're in good hands with our young people. I think there's over 30,000 there.
Incredible.
Not that I condone them missing school, but on that note, thank you, Emily.
No, thank you very much.
Thank you.